All right, live, baby, live. This is only my second live stream. Um, and really, I don't expect anybody to show up and watch this live because I don't have that many subscribers. But I figured it would be a good way to just kind of go into a free form video without having to worry about any time constraints that my phone puts on me when it records video. Um, in the past, if I go over like 30 minutes with a video, it like cuts the video and creates a different file, and I have to get into editing and stringing them together. And I hate editing video. That's not the purpose of this channel. The purpose of this channel is not to make very polished videos. It's more of a free form, random thoughts off the top of my head concerning geekery, mainly comics, but also movies and pop culture and so forth, and books, but mainly comics and artwork and things that interest people who read and make comics. And as you probably know, those are a lot of things. So the cool thing about this is after the video is over, it will obviously live on my YouTube channel. So it'll be, a saved video. So it's okay if nobody pops in and watches this in live real time. If you do, um, I'll check to see if anyone joins, and I'll say hello. So having said that, we got a busy desk here. We don't need this. That is a laptop holder. So what do we want to do? We got a lot of books here. This place, they're so happy they put books in takeout bags. This is from McCrae's in Chattanooga, Tennessee. What did I buy? A book about Zen. The complete system of self-healing internal exercises. Interesting. Ooh, some comics. So I showed volume 1 previously. This is volume 2. I bought that at the same time. Looking forward to reading this. The Marathon Men of Mount Hayi. These guys are a trip. I like to trail run in the mountains. And I've read about these guys in the past, and they have an extremely hardcore training regiment. And these guys are able to run into old age and still do amazing distances and stay amazingly healthy. And I'm just kind of interested in reading, what that is. Not that I think that I could hope to ever duplicate that, but I like to read about different cultures, different experiences, especially when it comes to like physical and spiritual exertion. So that was a good haul. What else do we have here? It's a CD. Another CD. Back issue. I think I've shown this. Oh yeah, these are some other books that I've purchased. This is about architecture, art, and design. Again, along the same lines, I like to read the thoughts of artists, architects, and designers. We'll see more of that here in a bit. The Language of Architecture, another architecture book. My artwork is heavily influenced by architecture. It turns out a lot of my comic making is as well. Creative Spirituality, The Way of the Artist. Another book that is that discusses the spiritual implications of art, art creation, art pondering, art research. Very cool. Islamic art. I like to have source books of different types of art on hand. These are good idea books. They're good for inspiration. Again, they're also good for understanding, the thought processes behind different cultures, ancient cultures, how they thought about, how they created their artwork. So, anytime I find books like this that are interesting, uh, I will pick them up most likely. Same concept here. The British Museum Pattern Book of Pacific Designs. This is really cool. This is a really cool book. Um, a lot of these are like Zentangle doodles, if you're familiar with Zentangle style of drawing. It's very similar. Nothing phallic about that. I'm, I'm not saying it was aliens, but this was a good find. Empire, written by Samuel Delany, science fiction author, illustrated by Howard Chaykin. Um, you were probably familiar with Howard Chaykin if you are into comics. I had a copy of this as a kid. I don't remember it being this thick. I thought it was more of a like a Marvel Treasury edition, but this is a graphic novel format, oversized graphic novel, and just incredible artwork by Shaken in this. I don't know if enough people know about this book. I haven't read it since I was probably, I think, 12 when it came out. It's basically a space opera. Got an endorsement from George Lucas. Yeah, really, man. Just looking at this, like this is early in Shaken's career, and are we looking at some of his best work? Probably. Yeah, good stuff, man. I don't remember it being this long too, but yes, a couple hundred pages. Need to research the back matter more on this book, see how it came to be, how it was started. Very cool though. Um, I don't know who I don't know who published this. I don't think it was a Marvel or DC effort. Let's see. Byron Price Visual Publications. Yeah, I think it was just a book publisher. One chapter of it appeared in Heavy Metal magazine. Okay, I think that's where it first got on my radar. But yeah, yeah, very cool. Book of paintings and sketches, the book of drawings and sketches, architecture. What else we got laying around here on this desk? another another takeout bag. So more stuff from McRae's. If you've never been to McRae's in the Southeast, um, do so. Check it out. The one I went to has two stories to it. That's how big of a bookstore it is. The upper section is all comics. And really, most of the comics that they had in the racks are 50 cents. I've been Charlton Vengeance Squad. I like these old Charlton comics. This is issue number 2. Um, 25 cents. So this was even before my time. Yeah, I definitely did not have a copy of this. And speaking of a copy, it looks like it's in pretty decent shape. Another Solar Man of the Atom. Is that a Magnolia? Yeah, that's a Magnolia cover. Cool. Dick Tracy #1 from this is Mad Cane Publishing. So I've been slowly working my way through Dick Tracy's the DC ones. I think IDW had it for a while. Of course, there's the old classic comic strips. So yeah, there were various publishers that were putting them out in floppy form, and some of them were really good. I'm not familiar with this one, but yeah, I wanted to check it out. And there's a gold key one, Daggar the Invincible. Moonlight stirs a monstrous glob into a devouring demon. Well, we've all had nights like that. Gotta love those gold key painted covers, man. Let's see. Let's take a look at this one. I'm curious as to if there's any names in this one. If they have any credits for who did the artwork. No, I don't see any credits, but this does look familiar, doesn't it? Is it Gil Kane? Um, is it Gil Kane? I'm thinking it kind of looks like Gil Kane, but it's a little, almost a little too detailed, I think, for him. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it ain't Bernie Wrightson, is it? No, maybe it is Wrightson. Kind of reminds me of that too. Huh. Interesting. I have to look that up. It's a really cool cover. It's in pretty decent shape for $2.25. What else is in here? Showcase Justice League of America Volume 1. All right. So from the classic cover there. Yeah, I've been picking up these multiple mouses here. I've been picking up these essentials from Marvel and showcases from DC. You can usually find pretty decent prices on them if you look around. Sometimes you come across them and the prices are like ridiculous. They're like $50 or something. But for a lot of them, I've been finding them like anywhere from like $10 to $20, usually somewhere in between. But who's this early art? This is Carmine Infantino. But I like to look at these because I like looking at comics. I mean, I love color in comics, but I also like to look at the black and white ones. And so you're not looking at an artist edition, obviously, but you really, like the kayfabe guys used to say, you really get to see the line work, especially when you're looking at like, some of the greats. That's what I like about that Captain America one. You got a lot of Kirby art in there without the color, and it just really brings out Kirby's lines and the inking from guys like Sinnott and Vinnie Coletta. So this covers, let's see, Brave and the Bold, Mystery in Space, Justice League of America 1 through 16. So right from the very beginning. 1050. Can't beat it. It's in great shape. And this one, All-Star Comics. So you've seen on previous videos, I've got I've got 3 volumes of the archives, which are reprinted in color. These are beautiful books. And so here I've got volume 1. Now I've got the archive editions. This is 7, 2, 6, and 7 are the ones that I have. So this will pick me up at the beginning of the All-Star Comics. Even though everyone kind of appears in their... Although looking at this, this isn't from the Golden Age, is it? Gone but Not Forgotten. JSA reappeared decades later in the 70s. Okay, these are the 70s All-Star Comics. Okay, cool. So this is the more modern, probably, I guess, the first iteration of the update from the 1940s All-Star Comics. So writing from Paul Levitz, Jerry Conway, art by Joe Staton, Keith Giffen, Wally Wood, nice, and Rick Estrada. Okay, so a little more of a modern version of All-Star Comics. So not like the DC archives that I have. So this is different. So this is cool. This is kind of a continuation. Yeah, we definitely look like we're in the 70s here. this does not look like the 40s. So, all right. Oh, is that Wildcat? Yeah, that's Wildcat. Wildcat is one of the craziest characters because he has that costume that kind of tries to mimic a cat's nose. It's more apparent in the older comics. And then he's got like the floppy cat ears, which in the All-Star ones, the ears are much bigger, like a real cat, and they're kind of floppy. But here they've shortened the ear, but it's kind of floppy. And I love the character. It's just the costume is just, I've always had a thing for the costume. It's just so it's so ridiculous, but in a great way, in a good way. Cover, big splash page there. The Untold Origin of Justice Society. This is prior to them all getting, I think, kind of like wiped out in the crisis on Infinite Earths and so forth. It's good to go back and read the histories, though, right? All right. What else do we got? What other stuff? Oh yeah. You want to look at a book? I read this. It's pretty cool, pretty awesome. If you're into Warhammer, this is a pivotal moment of the lore. I read it in a couple of nights. Well, not two nights, probably 3 or 4 nights. 4 nights tops. Couldn't put it down. Really good stuff. If you're into Warhammer, check that one out. I talked about this on previous episodes. These 3 books here, the Dark Imperium series. I think this is book 1. Yeah, book 2, book 3. So book 1, book 2, book 3. These the events in these books apparently take place after the fall of Cadia. So I read that book first, before I'm going to dig into these. Although I had this one. This is the original one I found. I was able to find these other two. They also popped up at Barnes and Noble. I found all three of these at Barnes and Noble. Um, so this is essentially, this is essentially a Space Marine's tale. Let's see. Fell times have come to the galaxy. Acadia has fallen, destroyed by the onslaught of chaos. A great rift in the warp has opened, and from its depths spews demons and the horrors of old night. But all is not lost. A hero long absent has returned, and with him comes the wrath of the Ultramarines reborn. Robert Guillaume has arisen to lead the Imperium out of darkness on a crusade, the likes of which has not been seen since the fabled days of the Emperor. So yeah, this saga takes place over these three books. So that'll be cool. This good sequel to the Fall of Cadia. Anybody read this? I've never read any Brandon Sanderson, but I know a ton of people that are huge fans of his. So I figured I'd give it a shot. It's kind of still in a fantasy mood. And this is, book one of the Stormlight Archive. As you can see, it's a brick. Um, it looks like, though, to still be a fast read. You know, I heard Sanderson is very readable. So I figured this would be probably, I don't know. I've heard some other people online say this is kind of like a good first foray into Brandon Sanderson. So I figured I'd take a chance on it. I mean, I'm not going in thinking it's going to suck. I think it's going to be pretty good. It's just it's a time intensive labor labor of love. All right, what else do we have here? Dreadstar. I think I showed this previously, but we didn't dig into it. I finally found what I think. Well, it's book one, but I think this. Who is this? Ominous Press, who released this. I think this volume, and I think volume two, I think are kind of the definitive omnibus collection of Dreadstar. I think. I've seen other books around. I have a couple of them. They're not complete. I first started reading Dreadstar in Epic magazine in the 80s. And I like Jim Starlin. I'm kind of on a quest. Oh, I have a viewer. I had a couple earlier, so whoever you are, thank you for watching. um, so yeah, let's check it out. Receipt. We don't need that. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot. This one has a signed card by Starlin. Yeah, and I got this at a crazy deal. I got this from this guy in Brandon, Florida, Greg at Urban Legend Comic Shop. It's my favorite comic shop. Haven't been there in almost a year. Due for another visit when the holidays roll around. But yeah, and he gave me a great deal on this because I mean I bought a bunch of other comics at that time. So, but yeah, this starts with Metamorphosis Odyssey, which was the price, which were I believe in Epic magazine. That was my first introduction to this. Then there was the graphic novel that Marvel pushed out. Um, I don't think I got that. I don't think I read that. Uh, Dreadstar and Epic Illustrated. So I thought that's what Metamorphosis Odyssey was. I don't know. Dreadstar has a really crazy publishing history. And then the comics were, I guess, on the Epic Comics imprint as well from Marvel. Never read any of those. And then there was another publisher that picked him up after Marvel, and I think that's what's covered in volume two of this. So I want to find volume two. But yeah, when I was first introduced to this is what I saw was this black and white introduction to Akhenaton. And it was apparent that it was like Jim Starlin doing his Jim Starlin thing right off the bat. And I had been aware of him through Warlord or Warlock, of course. Warlord was Mike Grell. And I think when this came out, that was kind of what he was famous for. I don't think Infinity Gauntlet had been written by him yet at this point. And of course, he is most well known now, I think, for Infinity Gauntlet, courtesy of the MCU. So, but yeah, here in wherever this was published, maybe it was initially, I don't know where this was. I'll have to look. Maybe this initially came out in Heavy Metal, these first couple of issues. Or, no, it was Epic Illustrated. It had to have been. But I think the thing about Epic Illustrated is they were Marvel was trying to compete with Heavy Metal. So they wanted to have an adult illustrated fantasy science fiction magazine. But they couldn't really go as adult as Heavy Metal did. So, but still, the artist creators had a lot more leeway in what they were able to create and the stories that they were able to tell in that magazine. But there again, you have the constraints of probably, Marvel's editors are going to tell you, hey, we can only give you a certain number of pages because we got to fit in all the other stuff for each monthly issue. So Starlin, and I don't know for sure, but he was probably happier when he was able to get a full, I think, monthly or bi-monthly floppy comic, that he could create. Let's see how it's transitioning into color here. So when he started, making the comics under the Epic imprint, I think there he probably had, in terms of page number, a very good amount of freedom. Man, the coloring reproduction in this book is awesome. Looks like a lot of watercolor in there. It's really cool. I remember that panel. And there's Dreadstar. Oh yeah, I remember that. It's kind of a lightsaber, but it shoots energy beams. It's got that little axe built into it, that little axe blade. He's clearly proficient in the use of this weapon. That's an awesome page. I remember this. One of the things I remember about this as a kid is trying to figure out how he got so many stars on the page. And clearly he was using a splatter paint technique, but back then I didn't know, I didn't know hardly anything about how these comics were created. This was definitely an Epic Illustrated. I remember reading these in Epic. In fact, thought there was a page in here that I'd seen swiped from other comic artists before. I could be mistaken, though. I like the interior of the ship. It's it's all lit up, and I don't know. I don't know what he's using here in terms of art tools over the pencils. I mean, we've seen watercolor in some of the earlier panels we were looking at, but here it's like maybe it's acrylic paint. It looks like it might be. But I don't know. That panel, I don't know. It could be like a oil stick or an acrylic pastel stick. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but there's this, you can almost see texture in this reproduction too, as if he was doing it on canvas paper or hard canvas board. Really cool though. I loved his depiction of space. Always had this just beautiful blue shades of blue color in it, um, and all of the paint spray for the star effects. And these almost like John Berkey design for the starships. Yeah, Dreadstar is every bit of a space opera, man. No two ways about it. So it's going to be a joy to sit down and just start revisiting all this cover to cover. The Infinity Horn. This was a precursor to the Infinity Gauntlet, I believe. Interesting. Yeah, see here, colored pencil, I'm thinking. It looks a lot like colored pencil. Maybe some pastel crayon. Not pastel crayon, but yeah, well maybe pastels. Looks like maybe blended in with colored pencil though. And then definitely here, like these effects, like acrylic paint. I mean, so these are truly, this is definitely painted comics style. He he is putting this down on the board, whatever he's using, Bristol board or canvas board. I think he's using canvas board or canvas paper at least for this work. Let me see if I have. Well, actually, here's kind of an example. So if you look at this is a painting I did. This is watercolor paper. And obviously watercolor. This is just watercolor and pencil. And you can probably see the texture. The texture of the paper. So the texture of watercolor paper, and you can see it becomes part of the artwork. It gives it gives texture. So it gives texture to this building. But yeah, it becomes part of the artwork. And this particular type of watercolor paper, it's pretty sturdy because you're applying so much water to it that you don't want it to start folding up, and peeling away and that kind of thing. You want the watercolor to really get into the paper at the molecular level. But you can see the texture. And so if I were to scan this, that texture would still come through in the scan. It becomes part of the artwork. So when when I'm looking at these panels, That's what I'm seeing is uh, is some of that texture, like in these mountains here. So whatever he's using, um, I'm seeing, and see the texture in it, and that's cool. That gives this comic book a unique look. And then I can, he's using different formats. He's playing, as you can see here, he goes back to black and white. And here I think he's just rendering. I want to say, I don't know, but looking at this is watercolor also. I'm wondering if he kind of did this maybe in color and they desaturated it before publishing. Not sure. But no, actually I think he probably did it in pencil and then he just hit it with watercolor and ink. See ink in the touch of the mouth there. Yeah. He's using some very fine brushes though to get that drapery the way it is. A lot of people knock Starlin for his art, and I don't understand that at all. His artwork is freaking amazing, especially in this book. Again, with the drapery, that is hard to do, man. That is so hard. I can't do that. At least not anywhere near as good as that. And then back to color. I think those black and white. I think those panels represent like they're like flashbacks in time. This definitely was an epic illustrated. So I love this panel here. I remember this panel distinctly. It always kind of like, I don't know. It just felt when I was a kid reading this, when you see like these cat alien people in this sort of like world of night and stars, it just kind of freaked me out in a good way. I was like, this felt very science fiction, very far away, very fantastic, very you know, there's a romance to it in a sense though. Um Something very familiar yet alien, you know? And yeah, he's on this planet with these cat people, which, you know, you can't go wrong with cats, man. Just about everybody loves cats. Now, here, I think here again, he's changed up. This looks like pastel. He's using pastel pencils, pastel marker, or pastel crayons, pastel sticks, basically. This is definitely pastel. I would say that with almost 100% certainty. So he's doing pencils, and then he's using pastel colors to shade it all in, to put the color in, to put the shading, the chiaroscuro. Really good job with the tint of the green on the glasses. It still shows, the so it's a light tint. It still show the facial feature around the eyes. Again with the drapery. Yeah, I mean Starlin is a draftsman, man. He knows his stuff. He knows his anatomy. He knows his classical composition. Black and white again. Oh, here's the so yeah, big jump. All right. So we've seen this sort of painted artwork. We've seen him kind of doing his thing, but it takes a long time to create art like this on the page because you have to put so much into it with the pastels or the watercolor or the acrylic. So when you get to issue number one, and now you're in the Marvel method, so to speak, and you got to start cranking out. I think these were monthly, maybe they were bi-monthly, but he's on more of a deadline now. So what do you have? You have comics that look like regular comics. So we're going to have to break out Zipatone screens. To create background volume. We're going to go back into, was probably still four coloring process. I think this is maybe the mid 80s, possibly the late 80s when these started coming out. This is after I'd stopped collecting comics at that period of time. So I haven't read any of these. I might have an issue or two that I picked up here and there, but you can tell there's the obvious difference in the art now. Now this looks like traditional Marvel and DC type comics. So we've left behind sort of the painted era for now. Now I think he gets back to this once he leaves Epic, once he leaves Marvel, and he gets into it. He gets in with a different publisher. I can't remember who it was. Maybe was it Oni Press? I don't know. But and I've got some of that material. But yeah, we're looking at and I'm not saying it as a criticism though, because it's just it's just the method that he has to work within. It's the system that he has to work within. Some of the greatest comics ever created were created in this type of system, in the four color traditional printing press system. Um, Back then, it was still too early for digital manipulation. There may have been, definitely there's a lot of paste up work going on back in these days. And there may have been some creative uses of like photocopy effects, maybe even here in this panel. But yeah, there's still no Photoshop yet. It's just maybe on the cusp of the desktop publishing revolution with the first Apple computers and some of the first PC computer graphic software packages like Amiga and so forth. So yeah, back to the traditional comics look here. Killing it with the starship structural designs still. Welcome to those who have joined. I have a few people popping in every now and then, just looking in, and that's cool. I think I've had three or four that have popped in. Let's see, issue number 2, January of 83. So let's go back and see when issue number 1 came out. November of 82. Yeah, so these were not coming out monthly. They were coming out quarterly, I guess. Ditko-esque, a little psychedelia there, a little trans-dimensional traveling, astral dimensional, and so forth. Flashbacks, traumatic events, all in red and black. It's appropriate. Let's see if we get past the epic era in this. I don't think it does. I think it finishes up with the epic comics. Yeah. That's cool spread. Omnibus Volume 2, so want to find that. I'll come across it eventually. Yeah, it's cool. They have a lot of his paintings. That looks like oil or acrylic. Almost looks like oil. Very cool. I think this these effects here. This too. It's almost like you hit it with a palette knife as an afterthought. It creates a neat effect. Yeah, definitive remastered edition. So I don't know what they did to correct the original artwork. Probably some minor corrections. This looks very, very true to the original published work. So they did an excellent job with this book. Excellent, excellent job. All right. What else? So I showed that. That's just a watercolor I did. I haven't showed much of my art on this channel. Um, this is one that I've been doing. So just to let you know, I'm not first and foremost. I'm not a comic artist, although I dabble in comics. Um, as I said earlier in the stream, I'm heavily influenced by architecture and art, which is one of the reasons I liked this book so much. I've showed this on a previous video, is it really had a blend of a lot of different art and architectural styles. You probably heard all that yard work going on out there. there's there's no way around that. There's no way around it. It happens. But this one here, I think I had a collage in mind for this. I was going to add some additional elements to it and actually turn it kind of into a collage piece. So I was going to paste some other things on here, but it's out of my sketch. I took it out of my sketchbook. It's mostly, I don't want to call it practice work because I think that to me, even your sketchbook art and your idea art is part of your art as a whole. Um, and while you may not necessarily like take stuff out of your sketchbook and sell it, you probably could at some point. Like this, you know, I could probably sell this at a show for like $10, $20 framed or something like that. But it's really more of a prep piece for a larger painting. But it is a piece of art in and of itself. In fact, it's the original piece before I make the painting. And the painting probably won't, well, the painting definitely will not look exactly like this, and neither would this if I decided to turn it into a painting. There's just too many different variables at work. Okay, what else do we have going on here? Um, so the other thing I wanted to talk about in this live stream, I've been meaning to make a video about. I've been loath to bring this up, but I feel like it needs to be addressed. I know a lot of people are very sensitive on this topic. There's a lot of consternation and anger around it. Um, and I can understand why. But as an artist, I have skin in this game, as much skin in the game as anybody else. Maybe not so much as big name artists. This is another piece that I did. This is actually on cardboard. I took a bunch of Amazon Prime boxes Urban Experiment number one. Took a bunch of Amazon Prime boxes, put them together, um, put down a base coat of white paint, and just kind of went to town. I wanted to create something pattern wise, but also something that's kind of a takeoff on like urban planning diagrams. If you think about urban planning diagrams that you see that are published by city councils and architects and so forth, um, before you get all this first layer, if you look at the layers of black, the main forms that are at the bottom, that was the first or the second layer I put down over the white. I added the color stuff later, but this started as just a pure black and white painting until I added more and more to it. Um, some of my stencils, I create most of my stencils. There is some stenciling in here. It's loose stenciling. I didn't care about accuracy or making sure the paint didn't bleed and so forth. To me, I like the effect of it just being kind of raw and rough and a little bit unchallenged. So, but anyway, back to, oops, sorry about that. Back to my original thought was um, I've been interested in this movement to create artificial intelligence comics. We all know that people started creating AI art, and then people started creating AI comics. And the interesting thing about that is there were these software packages that were out there um, going back, I guess, a couple of years, really probably longer than that, where people were, taking their original art or their photoshopped art or their let's say digitally manipulated art and placing it into their into these sort of template software packages to create comics that you could publish online. And of course, we know there's like the Webtoons platform. So there's the whole niche of people that have been creating comics specifically for the web. Haven't necessarily been publishing them in hard copy or maybe even in digital format. Like you got to go in, create a Webtoons account, look at the comics and so forth. And of course, we know about Comixology's app, and now that's on Kindle. And there's been all these different publishing platforms for comics. And when I started to see people creating AI comics, um, I'm someone who likes to look at new trends in artwork, and I'm interested in how people, use different tools and technology to get their point across, especially in the visual arts. So the AI comics thing was interesting to me, and I'm gonna finish that point here in 2 seconds. I want to go grab another book from another room. Okay. So when I heard that people were doing that, this particular book came across my radar. Now I think this was probably put together about 2 years ago. It took them quite a while to publish it, but this was I believe it was a Kickstarter type, program. This is volume one. I don't know if there's been a volume two or not. You know how a lot of these things go. But everything in this book is AI generated comics. And if you'll just stick with me, because this is going someplace. I know people are just rabidly opposed to this, and I understand that. One of the people I think they got on board with this was Dave McKean, and there's a really good interview here with him about how he got interested in AI comics. And if you know Dave McKean, and I'm sure you all do, he's kind of an unconventional comics artist. I think he's also, to me, he's really a graphic designer. Um, that's just, I think, the way his inspiration is from graphic design. And that's kind of where I come from, is from a graphic design background, and I don't put myself in the same category as Dave McKean in any sense of the word. But what was really cool about his interview was just sort of him talking about, his concerns about it, but he decided that he wanted to try experimenting with this new tool, with this new medium, because he is a very digitally oriented artist, as we know. He he heavily relies on digital. Let's see if we can look at a couple of interesting quotes from him here. Yeah, so basically, they asked him, what inspired you to create your book, AI Generated Sequential Art Prompt, which he did. He created a book that sort of detailed his experience with prompting AI to generate art. And he says, it only took an hour or two between seeing a couple of things that people had posted, looking into it online, and immediately understanding the implications of the software, how it could change things. Then there was a day of lying on the floor in depression, thinking that's basically my job done, and then responding to it. It would be too easy to roll over and think I either retire because my job can be done by robots now, or ignore it and pretend it will go away. It's not going to go away. I could hope that it gets disinvented or some legal cases mounted against it. That's not going to happen. I had to deal with it. I immediately thought I should do a book. I think in sequences of images, so I thought it should be a comic of some kind. I wanted to do something that was an exercise for myself to learn how to use it and what its strengths were and what it was good at and what it was not so good at, so that on paper I could explain to an audience the power of it. This was my little pushback to just try and be positive about it by making something. I always feel better when I can make something. It was a way of taking back control of the situation. And that sums up my thoughts about AI art, AI comics in general. So, having read that, I decided I was going to create my own AI comic, not for publication, not for making money, although I can't guarantee that I never